I'm Emily Thompson, 29 years old. And just 8 weeks ago, I was scraping by as a second-grade teacher in a cramped studio apartment in Seattle, Washington. Rainy days blurring into lesson plans, coffee runs on credit, and the quiet dream of maybe one day affording a real vacation. My grandparents, Margaret and Robert Hayes, were the anchors in my stormy life. They raised me with love when my parents couldn't be bothered. They built a tech empire from a garage startup in the 80s. But lived like everyday folks, teaching me that true wealth is in kindness, not bank accounts. When they perished in that horrific boating accident on Puget Sound, my world shattered. But the real storm hit at the lawyer's office. They left me their entire $32 million fortune. Suddenly, the family who'd ignored them for years came crawling out, claws bared. If you've ever wondered how money can rip masks off faces, buckle up. This is my story of betrayal, backbone, and building a legacy that matters. Hit like if you're hooked already. Subscribe for more real-life tales of standing tall when blood turns toxic. And drop where you're tuning in from. Let's dive in. Growing up in the Hayes household felt like living in a glossy magazine, perfect on the surface, hollow underneath. My father, Michael Hayes, was a high-powered executive in Silicon Valley, clocking 70-hour weeks chasing promotions at a rival firm. He'd jet off to conferences in Vegas or New York, leaving us with nannies and takeout. My mother, Susan, was the queen of social climbing, hosting galas for charity boards that were more about selfies than service. Family time? Rare as a sunny Seattle winter. Dinners were interrupted by emails. Vacations cut short by emergencies. They gave me the basics, clothes, school supplies, but hugs and heart-to-hearts? Those were luxuries I never knew. From age 6, my real home was with Grandma Margaret and Grandpa Robert in their cozy ranch-style house on Bainbridge Island. Just a ferry ride from the city. Despite founding Hayes Tech Solutions, a software company that revolutionized inventory management for small businesses, growing to a fleet of servers and clients across the West Coast, they lived humbly. Their 3-acre property had a wildflower garden where Grandpa taught me to code simple programs on an old Commodore 64 while we planted seeds. Grandma showed me how to bake apple pies from scratch and knit scarves for homeless shelters. They showed up for every piano recital and soccer match my parents skipped, cheering louder than anyone. Hayes Tech started in their garage in 1982 with one clunky computer and a vision. By the time I was born, it was a mid-sized powerhouse with 150 employees and offices in Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco. But you'd never guess their worth from their lifestyle. Grandpa drove the same Ford pickup for 25 years. Grandma shopped thrift stores and clipped digital coupons. Money's a tool, Emily, they'd say. Build bridges with it, don't burn them for show. This mindset clashed hard with my dad. As their only son, Michael expected the silver spoon, lavish inheritance, no strings. He resented their frugality, calling them outdated relics. They funded his Stanford tuition but made him work internships. When he demanded a C-suite spot at Hayes Tech fresh out of college, they said no, earn it like we did. He bolted, taking a job at a competitor, and the rift widened into a chasm. With me, they took a gentler path. They covered my college at the University of Washington, letting me graduate debt-free with a teaching degree. When I chose education over tech, starting at $45,000 a year, they beamed with pride. Follow your heart, not the paycheck, Grandma said. I kept our bond strong, weekly video calls, helping them set up smart home devices, sharing recipes over holidays. I'd crash at their place instead of my parents' McMansion in Bellevue, which drove Mom nuts. She saw it as a slap in the face. My life was simple but fulfilling. My studio in Capitol Hill was tiny, crammed with thrift store bookshelves and houseplants. Teaching at Evergreen Elementary brought joy, watching kids' eyes light up during storytime. Hiking Rainier on weekends, volunteering at animal rescues. Grandparents slipped in gifts like new rain boots or a fancy coffee maker. Always practical. 8 weeks ago, everything imploded. I was prepping crafts for class when the call came. A freak wave capsized their sailboat during a sunset cruise. They drowned instantly. No suffering. But the void was unbearable. The funeral was a farce, Dad haggling over casket prices. Mom posing for sympathy posts on Instagram. My 26-year-old brother Brandon glued to his phone trading stocks. Aunt Laura, Dad's sister, wailed for the cameras but dried up fast. Uncle Tom hovered silently. None had visited in years. Yet here they were, playing bereaved. I retreated to my apartment. Took leave. And grieved alone. Their house sat empty. Too painful to enter. Then, David Silverman, their lawyer and old friend, summoned us for the will reading. The morning was foggy. Puget Sound shrouded in mist. I arrived early at Silverman's firm in a historic brick building downtown. In a plain gray dress. Clutching Grandma's old umbrella, David, mid-60s with salt and pepper hair and a kind smile, greeted me warmly. Margaret and Robert were legends. He said, "I'll miss our bridge nights and her famous pies." Before more words, my family burst in. Dad checked his Rolex impatiently. At 58. He was a colder version of Grandpa. Mom clutched her Louis Vuitton. Brandon sauntered in sunglasses indoors. Jeans rumpled. Aunt Laura yapped on her phone about club drama. Uncle Tom trailed mutely. "Let's cut to it," Dad barked. "We all know how this goes. Family business stays in the family." David smiled thinly, leading us to a polished conference room. Tension crackled as we sat, Dad at one end like a king. "Me near David," he began. "Margaret and Robert were sharp as tacks when they updated this last year." Dad snorted. "Just read it." The legalese droned on. Then the bombshell. Their entire estate, $32 million in cash. Investments, real estate, and 30% stake in Hayes Tech, went to me. Emily Grace Thompson. Nothing for Michael, Susan, Brandon, Laura, or Tom. We've provided for them in life. The will stated. Our reasons are documented. Silence exploded into chaos. Dad snatched the paper. "This is bullshit. Mom. $32 million to a teacher? She'd blow it on crayons." Brandon. "What about my app startup?" Aunt Laura. "You brainwashed them." I sat stunned. David retrieved the document and played a video. Grandparents on their couch. Looking vital. "Grandpa, if you're watching. We're gone. We love our kids. But their greed disappoints us. Grandma. Emily embodies our values. Visits from the heart. Teaches for purpose, not profit." They detailed decades of slights. Dad's unpaid loans. Aunt Laura's snubs. Brandon's schemes. "Emily will steward this wisely," Grandpa said, suggesting education and community tech initiatives. Dad raged. "We'll sue." They were senile. David. "Cognitive tests prove otherwise. Contesting will be futile and costly." Mom turned saccharine. "Emily. Honey. Share with family, it's right." I stammered. "I need time." But pressure mounted. The meeting dissolved in threats. David handed me an envelope. Docs. Keys. Advisors' contacts. "Process this." Dad grabbed my arm. "Our house. 7 p.m. We'll fix this." I drove aimlessly. Parked at Discovery Park. Envelope unopened. Terror mixed with duty. At my parents' sprawling Bellevue estate, glass walls. Infinity pool. I faced the firing squad. Dad by the marble fireplace. Scotch in hand. Mom on a stiff sofa. Brandon lounging. Aunt Laura pacing. Uncle Tom staring out. "Sit," Dad commanded. I perched near the door. "Be reasonable. Grandma and Grandpa meant for us all to benefit." "Sign it over. I'll manage. You get 15%. Plenty for your little life." "Mom. Wealth is complex. Dear. Buy a condo. Not that dumpy apartment." 15% was $4.8 million, insane. "But Brandon. I need $6 mil for my VR gaming platform. It's the next big thing." His history? Failed ventures burning parents' cash. Aunt Laura. The island house for us. Better schools for the kids. She'd never visited. Tactics shifted. Guilt. Mom. After all we've done, private schools. Braces. That useless art camp. Dad. We stayed together because of you. An accident that trapped us. Hurt sliced deep. When pleas failed. Threats. Sign or we contest. Drag your alone time with them into court. What lies did you spin? Uncle Tom murmured. Give her space. Dad snapped. Shut it. This is Hayes' business. By 10 p.m., Brandon drafted papers. Mom called their lawyer. They divvied my inheritance like pie, none honoring grandparents' wishes. Dad slid the doc. Sign. It gave him full control. Me a discretionary cut. Deep breath. No. Uproar. Mom's tirade. Brandon's curses. Aunt Laura's sobs. Dad. Sign or you're disowned. Choose. Family or fortune. Faces cold. No love. I'm not signing. I'll honor their trust. Get out. Dad roared. And your apartment? We own the building via our LLC. Lease terminated. 30 minutes to pack. Stomach dropped. They'd co-signed years ago. I never knew they owned it. Autopilot. Grabbed clothes. Docs. Grandma's quilt. Dad watched like a warden. You were never wanted. He sneered. An obligation. Mom. Our investment in you ends now. Brandon. You'll crawl back broke. Bags heavy. I faced them at the door. Mom. Family's forever. You'll regret this. You're the ones throwing it away. I whispered. Door slammed. In my old Honda. Tears flowed. Homeless. Family-less. Millionaire? Absurd. Nowhere to go. Credit maxed. Then the envelope. Keys to grandparents' house. Now mine. Ferry to Bainbridge. Heart pounding. Porch light on timer. Inside. Scents of lavender potpourri and wood polish hit. Empty but familiar. Guest room unchanged. My half-read book on the nightstand. I collapsed. Sobbing into the pillow. Morning light pierced. Phone exploded. Threats from Dad. 24 hours or sue. Mom's fake olive branches. Brandon's creepy. Enjoy the empty house. For now. Forwarded to David. Stay put. I'm coming. He arrived with coffee. Briefcase. Your family's shopping lawyers. But Margaret and Robert planned for this. Showed a deed. A hidden cabin in the Olympics. Bought secretly for me. Relief. Knock. Carlos Ramirez? No. Meet Jake Ramirez. Their property manager for 18 years. In the guest cottage. Miss Emily. They were saints. Saw your car? Need anything? Kindness undid me. He joined us. Shared untold stories. Grandparents' quiet charities. Employee bonuses. Your dad and brother snooped post-funeral. Took watches. Laptops. Caught on new cams grandpa installed. Distrusted the old ones your dad set. David noted. Useful for court. Jake led to grandma's study. Journals chronicling family greed. Dad's $300,000 investment demands. Brandon's flops. Mom's snide lifestyle jabs. My entries? Warm. Loving. More arrived. Housekeeper Elena Morales. Hugging me. You look like Margaret Young. Business partner Nina Patel. With company files. Advisor Greg Chen. Portfolios. Neighbor Sarah Klein. Casserole in hand. Letters surfaced. Dad's threats over denied funds. USB. Mom pocketing jewelry at the wake. By afternoon, Brandon texted. We're coming tomorrow at 9 a.m. to take what's ours. Don't fight. David. Time for the plan. Called allies. I pored over docs that night, journals. Finances. Grandparents' strategy shown. Not just money. But protection. Resolve built. Brandon's final text. Sleep light. Sis. No fear. Strength. Woke determined. By 8. David with orders. Elena cooking breakfast. House filled. Jake guarding. Nina prepped. Others rallying. 9 a.m. sharp. Cars. Dad's Tesla. Mom's Range Rover. Aunt Laura's Porsche. Brandon's leased Lambo. Pounding door. Jake opened. Dad. Where's Emily? Outsiders out. They froze seeing the crowd. Me center. David beside. Mom. Private matter. Door opened. Judge Elena Vargas, old friend. Ruled against Dad once. Police Chief Mark Reynolds. Grandkids scholarships via Hayes Fund. Advisor Greg again. Dad paled. Judge. Here as witness. Per their request. Chief. Friend capacity, unless crimes occur. Employees filed in. Longtimers knowing Dad's entitlement. Brandon. Intimidation tactic? I stepped up. You think you're owed. But no, bullying ends. Greg. Docs of your fraud attempts. 2017 account hack. 2019 forged docs. Last year's competency push after denied loan. Nina. $250,000 company, loan, unpaid for your yacht. One by one. Evidence piled. Slights. Thefts versus. My genuine bond. Aunt Laura. You poisoned them. Judge. Video journals say otherwise. David distributed envelopes. Proof packets. Contest? This goes public. Uncle Tom. Laura. Let's go. We can't win. Dad scanned. Deflated. Shady deals exposed. Chief. Surveillance active. Theft means charges. I handed papers. Cease desists. Return demands. Relationship terms. Respect or nothing. Silence. Dad. Not over. But voice cracked. Judge. It is. Ironclad. They slunk out. Elena served coffee. Cheers erupted. Hollow victory. Family lost. But community gained. 6 months on. Founded Hayes Education Fund. $12 million for STEM in underserved schools. Back teaching. Funding supplies. Company thrives under values. Employee shares. Green initiatives. Family tries. Dad for loans. Mom for board spots. Brandon for cash. Aunt Laura holidays. Boundaries hold. New family. Dinners with allies. Holidays shared. At gravesite. Fall leaves swirling. I'm honoring you. Scholarships changing lives. Event. Funded 25 kids' colleges. 1. Like me. Dreams teaching. True legacy. Impact over dollars. Money reveals colors. Mine shines in purpose. The morning after my family disowned me. I woke in my grandparents' guest room on Bainbridge Island. The scent of lavender potpourri heavy in the air. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts from my father. Michael. Alternating between veiled threats, reconsider or face consequences, and fake warmth from Mom. Susan. We can work this out. Sweetie. My brother Brandon's message chilled me. Enjoy that big house while it lasts. We're coming at 9 a.m. to take what's ours. No bluff. This was war. I wasn't alone, though. David Silverman, my grandparents' lawyer and confidant, arrived at 8 a.m. with a steaming coffee tray and a leather folder thick with legal ammo. They're moving fast, he said, eyes steely. 3 law firms already contacted for a will contest. But Margaret and Robert saw this coming. He laid out restraining orders, cease and desist letters, and a plan to crush their claims. Elena Morales, the housekeeper who'd known me since I was a kid, bustled into the kitchen, frying bacon and brewing coffee. The familiar sizzle grounded me. A reminder of Grandma's Sunday brunches. Jake Ramirez, the property manager living in the guest cottage, took post by the front door like a sentinel. Nina Patel, my grandparents' business partner at Hayes Tech Solutions, set up her laptop on the dining table, pulling up financial records. Sarah Klein, their neighbor of 35 years, dropped off a blueberry cobbler. Her warm hug a lifeline. By 9:30, the house buzzed with allies, friends, employees, and advisors who'd loved Margaret and Robert not for their wealth but their hearts. At 8:55, tires crunched on the gravel driveway. My heart raced. Dad's sleek Tesla led the convoy, followed by Mom's white Range Rover, Aunt Laura and Uncle Tom's cherry red Porsche, and Brandon's leased Lamborghini, a gaudy symbol of his mooching off our parents. They were early, hoping to catch me off guard. The doorbell rang like a machine gun. Then pounding fists echoed. Jake opened the door, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to Dad's scowl. Where's Emily? Dad barked. This is family business. Step aside. Jake didn't budge. Miss Emily's expecting you. Come in. They stormed the foyer, halting at the sight of the living room packed with supporters. I stood center. David to my right. Nina's laptop glowing with evidence. Mom's voice was ice. What is this? Outsiders in a private matter? Before I could reply, the front door swung open again. In walked Judge Elena Vargas, a formidable woman in her late 60s. Her silver hair pulled tight. She'd been friends with my grandparents for decades and had once shut down Dad's shady business deal in court. Behind her came Police Chief Mark Reynolds, whose daughter owed her nursing degree to my grandparents' scholarship fund. Greg Chen, their financial advisor, followed, clutching a briefcase stuffed with portfolios. Dad's face drained at Judge Vargas's presence. Elena, he tried, voice loyally. What brings you here? She fixed him with a stare. I'm here at Margaret and Robert's request. As a witness to any estate disputes. They were meticulous. Mom snapped at Chief Reynolds. And law enforcement? We're just here for family heirlooms. The chief's smile was sharp. I'm a friend today, Susan. Unless someone crosses a line, then it's official. Brandon scoffed. This circus supposed to scare us? I stepped forward, voice steady despite my pounding heart. You think you're entitled to their estate? Despite their clear wishes, you're here to bully me. That ends now. Greg opened his folder. Michael, we have records of every attempt you made to siphon their assets. The 2017 unauthorized transfer from their pension fund. The 2019 forged check for $50. Last year's push to declare Margaret incompetent after she refused your $400 investment pitch. Dad's jaw tightened. Out of context. Nina tapped her screen. And the $250 loan from Hayes Tech in 2012 for your Lake Tahoe condo, unpaid. They could have sued but didn't. One by one, allies laid out evidence. Jake revealed security footage. Dad and Brandon rifling through the house post-funeral. Pocketing Grandpa's Rolex and Grandma's diamond earrings. Elena handed me Grandma's journals. Pages detailing Dad's demands. Mom's snide remarks about their tacky lifestyle. Brandon's failed crypto ventures. My visits? Described with love, every book shared. Every pie baked together. Aunt Laura exploded. You conniving brat. You turned them against us. Judge Vargas cut in. I reviewed their video diaries. No manipulation, clear reasoning. David distributed thick envelopes to each family member. Bank records, emails, texts, videos of your interactions with Margaret and Robert. Contest the will, and this goes public. Uncle Tom, silent until now, skimmed his packet and paled. Laura, we should go. This is a losing battle. She shoved him off. We're not quitting. But Dad, scanning his envelope, froze. Inside were emails of his shady offshore deals. Voicemails trashing his parents' cheap ways. Public exposure would ruin him. Chief Reynolds added, this property's under 24/7 surveillance. Removing anything without permission is theft. Backed up to the cloud. I handed out papers. Cease and desist orders for their threats. Demands for stolen items return. And terms for any future relationship. Respect my grandparents' wishes or stay away. Silence fell. Mom tried. Emily, we're family. No. I cut in. You're vultures. They saw it. That's why I'm here. Surrounded by their true family. Dad's voice was low. This isn't over. Judge Vargas. It is. Michael. Any court in Washington would uphold this will with this evidence. Defeated. They shuffled out. Brandon's glare venomous. Mom's heels clicking in retreat. As their cars peeled away. Elena poured fresh coffee. Sarah sliced cobbler. And the room erupted in relieved chatter. Judge Vargas touched my shoulder. Your grandparents would be proud. Emily. You stood with dignity. Nina nodded. You're their true heir, in heart and action. The victory felt bittersweet. I'd protected their legacy but lost the family I was born into. Yet, in their place stood a community bound by trust. A legacy worth more than millions. A new dawn, 6 months later. 6 months have passed since that showdown. And I'm still piecing together my new reality. The first weeks were brutal, legal filings. Sleepless nights. And the gut punch of realizing my blood family chose cash over connection. They tried crawling back. Dad hinting at loans for his struggling firm. Mom angling for a board seat at my new foundation. Brandon begging $5 million for another doomed startup. Aunt Laura suggesting family holiday gatherings in my big house. Each time, I held firm, citing the terms I'd set, respect or nothing. They couldn't comply. With David, Nina, and Greg's guidance, I launched the Margaret and Robert Hayes Foundation for Education, seeding it with $12 million. Its mission: fund STEM programs for underserved kids in Seattle's schools. I'm back at Evergreen Elementary, teaching second graders, surprising those who thought I'd quit post-inheritance. My classroom's transformed, new tablets, science kits, books for every kid, plus free lunches and winter jackets. Small costs for me, massive impact for them. Hayes Tech thrives under Nina's mentorship. I'm no CEO, but I ensure it stays true to grandparents' values, profit sharing, eco-friendly upgrades, and scholarships for employees' kids. Over 200 jobs remain secure, a living tribute to their vision. The Bainbridge house is home now. I moved into the master bedroom, though it felt like trespassing at first. With Jake's help, I turned the basement into a community hub for foundation workshops, coding camps, robotics clubs. Elena still cleans thrice weekly, refusing retirement, her laughter filling the halls like grandmas used to. My family is new. Sunday dinners continue, hosted by me, Jake's kids running around, Nina sharing tech insights, Sarah telling stories of block parties with my grandparents. Holidays are warm, filled with these allies who loved Margaret and Robert for who they were. One rainy October morning, I visited their graves at Lakeview Cemetery, laying wildflowers from their garden. I'm trying, I whispered, rain mixing with tears. Your foundation's changing lives. 5 kids got full ride scholarships to UW already. A breeze stirred the cedars, like their approval. The foundation's first gala was a milestone. 25 high schoolers awarded college funds. Among them, Sophia Rivera, a shy girl who reminds me of myself, dreaming of teaching. Held back by her parents' factory jobs. She hugged me, sobbing. This means I'm not just the first in my family to go to college. It shows my brothers it's possible. In that moment, I felt my grandparents' presence. Their $32 million wasn't the point. It was the tool to amplify their ripple effect. Quietly, they'd paid medical bills for strangers, saved homes from foreclosure, funded educations anonymously. They entrusted me to carry that forward. Money showed my family's true colors, greed painted starkly. But it also revealed a community of love, built on shared values. That's the real inheritance. What's your story of standing up to family pressure? Drop it below. Like, subscribe, share if this hit home. Money's just a tool. Use it to build, not destroy. Thanks for hearing me out. Here's to honoring what matters.